I never thought I'd find my son sleeping in his car on a freezing November night. But there he was, Marcus, my only child, curled up in the driver's seat of his old Camry with Emma and Noah bundled in the back under every blanket they owned. It was November 20th, around 11 at night. I'd driven to the 24-hour grocery store on Morrison Street because I couldn't sleep and figured a warm glass of milk might help. That's when I spotted the car. At first, I thought I was seeing things. The windows were fogged up and I could barely make out the shapes inside. But I recognized that dent on the passenger door, the one from when Marcus backed into a pole 3 years ago. My heart dropped into my stomach. I walked over and knocked on the window. The sound startled Marcus awake. He jerked upright, his eyes wild and frightened like a cornered animal. When he saw it was me, something in his face just crumbled. He unlocks the door, and I opened it to find my 7-year-old granddaughter Emma and 5-year-old grandson Noah asleep in the back seat, wrapped in their school jackets and a frozen blanket. "Marcus," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What in God's name are you doing here? Where's Victoria? Where's your house?" He couldn't look at me. His hands were shaking on the steering wheel. "Dad, I can't go home." "Can't or won't?" I asked, though I already knew something was terribly wrong. "Can't." He finally met my eyes, and I saw something I hadn't seen since he was a little boy. Pure, helpless fear. "Victoria's going to take them from me. Tomorrow. She's filing for emergency custody. She's going to tell the court I'm dangerous." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Dangerous? You? Marcus, you've never even raised your voice to those kids." "I know, Dad. I know." His voice broke. "But 2 days ago, I came home early from work. Victoria was on the phone in our bedroom." She didn't know I was there. I heard her talking to her brother Daniel about their plan. She said tomorrow they'd file the paperwork, claim I've been having violent outbursts, that I'm unstable. She laughed, Dad. She actually laughed and said, "Once we get custody and child support payments, we'll have enough to fund the Series A." I felt rage building in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. "The $85,000 I gave you two for the house down payment. Where is it?" Marcus's face went pale. "She transferred it 3 days ago to something called Hartfield Ventures LLC. That's her family's business. When I asked her about it, she said it was our investment in our future, that I should trust her. But Dad, she's been planning this for months, maybe longer." I looked at those 2 babies sleeping in the back seat, completely unaware that their world was being torn apart. Emma still had her unicorn backpack clutched against her chest. Noah was sucking his thumb, something he only did when he was scared or upset. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice leaving no room for argument. "You're going to follow me to my house right now. We're getting those kids into warm beds. Then, tomorrow morning, we're going to figure this out the right way. I didn't spend 30 years as a judge to watch my son get railroaded by a con artist." Marcus's eyes widened. "Dad, you don't understand. She has lawyers. Her whole family is backing her. Her aunt is some big-shot attorney. I don't care if she has the Supreme Court in her pocket. We're doing this right. Now start this car and follow me home." 20 minutes later, Emma and Noah were tucked into the guest bedroom that still had Marcus's old baseball trophies on the shelf. I'd made them hot chocolate and told them we were having a special sleepover at Grandpa's house. Emma looked at me with those big, worried eyes and asked, "Is Mummy going to be mad?" "Don't you worry about that, sweetheart," I told her, brushing her hair back. "Grandpa's got everything under control." But I didn't. Not yet, anyway. After the kids fell asleep, Marcus and I sat at the kitchen table. He looked 10 years older than his 34 years. His hands wrapped around a mug of coffee he wasn't drinking, and he told me everything. "It started about 6 months ago," he said. "Victoria changed. She'd always been ambitious, but suddenly she was cold, distant. She'd take calls in the other room, close her laptop whenever I walked by. I thought maybe she was stressed about work, or that I'd done something wrong." "Classic gaslighting," I muttered. "I didn't see it then. She'd tell me I was being paranoid, that I was imagining things. After a while, I started to believe her. Maybe I was seeing patterns that weren't there. Maybe I was the problem." He looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "She had me convinced I was losing my mind, Dad." "What about the money?" 3 months ago, she said her family's business had an incredible investment opportunity. Said if we put in the house down payment money now, we'd triple it within a year. I was hesitant, but she wore me down. Said I didn't trust her, that I was holding us back. I signed the transfer authorization. He laughed bitterly. I literally handed her the weapon she'd use to destroy me. "And Daniel?" Marcus's jaw clenched. "Daniel Hartfield. Her cousin's husband, technically, but they've always been close. Too close. I caught them having lunch together twice in the past month. She said they were discussing business. I found texts on her phone. She'd left it on the counter one morning. Nothing explicit, but the tone. The way he'd say, 'Can't wait to see you,' and she'd send back heart emojis." "Did you confront her?" "Once. She exploded, accused me of spying on her, violating her privacy. Said I was being controlling and paranoid. By the end of that fight, I was apologizing to her." He shook his head. "That's when I knew something was really wrong. But I didn't realize how wrong until I heard that phone call 2 days ago." I sat back in my chair. As a retired judge, I'd seen plenty of custody manipulation cases, but this was different. This was calculated, organized fraud, and my son and grandchildren were caught in the middle of it. "Tomorrow morning," I said, "I'm calling someone, old friend of mine, Sarah Chen. She used to be a forensic accountant, now she's a private investigator. If there's evidence of what Victoria's doing, Sarah will find it." "Dad, I don't have money for—" "You let me worry about that. Right now, you need sleep. Tomorrow, we start fighting back." But Marcus didn't sleep. Neither did I. We both knew that in less than 12 hours, Victoria would walk into a courthouse and try to destroy my son's life. The next morning, I called Sarah at 7. She picked up on the second ring. "Thomas Sullivan," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "It's been too long. How are you?" "I need your help, Sarah. It's about my son." The smile disappeared from her voice. "Tell me everything." I did, and when I finished, there was a long silence on the other end of the line. "That's one of the coldest schemes I've heard in a while," she finally said. "But if she's been planning this for months, she's left a trail. Money always leaves a trail. I'll start with the business registration for Hartfield Ventures, then bank records, phone records, any digital footprint. Give me 72 hours. "We might not have 72 hours. She could file today." "Then I work faster. Thomas, you know me. I don't stop until I find the truth." She didn't. Over the next 3 days, while Marcus stayed at my house with the kids, Sarah worked 18-hour days. She sent me updates every few hours. The picture she painted was even worse than I'd imagined. Hartfield Ventures LLC was registered to Daniel Hartfield, but Victoria was listed as a managing partner. The $85,000 Marcus transferred showed up in the business account, then was immediately moved to Daniel's personal account. Phone records showed over 200 calls between Victoria and Daniel in the past 3 months, many late at night, many lasting over an hour. But the worst part was what Sarah found in Victoria's email. She'd paid a marriage counselor $3,000 to write a report claiming Marcus had anger management issues. The counselor had seen them exactly once, for 20 minutes, and Marcus had barely spoken. The report was pure fiction. "She's been building a paper trail," Sarah told me on day 3.
False witnesses, manufactured incidents, everything designed to make Marcus look unstable when she brings this to court.
"What about the affair?"
Working on it. Daniel's been very careful, but I found hotel charges on a credit card registered to Hartfield Ventures. Same hotels where Victoria was supposedly attending marketing conferences. I'm pulling security footage now. That same afternoon, Victoria made her move. Marcus received papers delivered by a process server. Emergency custody hearing scheduled for the following Monday. The petition claimed Marcus had become increasingly erratic, had made threats against Victoria and her family, and posed a danger to their children. It was all lies, but it was all in writing, signed by an attorney. The hearing was brutal. Victoria showed up looking like the perfect, concerned mother, designer suit, minimal makeup, her lawyer beside her radiating professional confidence. Marcus looked exactly like what he was, a desperate father who'd been sleeping in his car. Victoria's lawyer, Patricia Hartfield, yes, another family member, presented her case with surgical precision. She had the fake counselor's report. She had 3 witnesses who testified they'd seen Marcus acting erratically at various times. One claimed Marcus had threatened to take the kids and disappear. Another said he'd seen Marcus drinking heavily at a bar and ranting about Victoria. None of it was true. Marcus's court-appointed lawyer was young, overworked, and outmatched. He did his best, but we'd been ambushed. We didn't have counter-evidence ready. We didn't have witnesses. We didn't have Sarah's investigation results yet. The judge, a woman named Henderson, who I didn't know, listened carefully. When Marcus tried to explain that he'd overheard Victoria planning this, she interrupted him. "Mr. Sullivan, that's hearsay."
"Do you have any recordings of this conversation?"
"No, Your Honor, but any witnesses?" "No, but the money she transferred, I'm going to stop you there." Judge Henderson looked at the papers in front of her. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm seeing a pattern of concerning behavior documented by multiple sources. Ms. Sullivan has presented compelling evidence that you may pose a risk to your children. Until we can sort this out properly, I'm ordering supervised visitation only." Marcus's face went white. "Your Honor, please. Supervised visits twice weekly at the Community Family Center, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. Full hearing scheduled in 30 days. This temporary order is effective immediately." We walked out of that courthouse with Marcus barely holding himself together. In the parking lot, he broke down. "She won," he said. "She took them from me, and she won." "No," I grabbed his shoulders. "She won a battle. We're going to win the war. Sarah's still working. We have 30 days to build our case. And Marcus, I know Judge Henderson. She's tough, but she's fair. When we come back with real evidence, she'll listen." But over the next 2 weeks, things got darker. The supervised visits were torture. Emma would cry when it was time to leave. Noah stopped talking altogether during the visits, just stared at his toys. The court monitor, a stern woman named Mrs. Patterson, took notes on everything, and I could tell she'd already formed an opinion about Marcus. Worse, Victoria was coaching the kids. I could see it. Emma started saying things like, "Mommy says Daddy needs to get better before we can come home." When Marcus tried to hug Noah goodbye, the boy flinched. That's when I saw my son's spirit break. "Maybe they're right," Marcus said one night at my house. "Maybe I am broken. Maybe the kids are better off." Stop! I'd never used my judge voice with my son before, but I used it then. That's exactly what she wants you to think.
That's how gaslighting works. She's making you doubt your own sanity, your own worth. But I know you, Marcus. I've known you for 34 years. You're a good man and a good father, and we're going to prove it. That same week, Sarah called with a breakthrough. "I found them," she said, barely containing her excitement. "Security footage from the Riverside Hotel. Victoria and Daniel checking in together. 4 different occasions over the past 3 months. And Thomas, I found text messages. Victoria's cloud backup wasn't properly secured. There are messages between her and Daniel going back 6 months. They explicitly discuss the custody plan." "Read me one," I said. Sarah's voice hardened. "November 1st. Victoria to Daniel. Lawyer says we need more documentation. Can your mum write another incident report?" Daniel replies, "Already talked to her. She'll date it for last week. How much longer do you think until we get full custody?" Victoria, "Patience, babe. Once we get the custody order and child support payments, we'll have enough for the Series A. Marcus is paying for his own replacement." I felt sick. She was planning to use child support money to fund Daniel's business? That's exactly what she was planning. And there's more. I pulled Daniel's business plan for this startup. He needs a minimum of $150,000 to launch. The $85,000 from Marcus, plus projected child support over 2 years, gets him almost there. Victoria's family was going to invest the rest, but only if she secured the custody arrangement first. They were treating my grandchildren like investment vehicles? Essentially, yes. The final hearing was scheduled for December 18th, 1 week before Christmas. Sarah had worked miracles. She had bank records, text messages, hotel security footage, phone records showing coordination between Victoria and Daniel. She'd even found the 3 witnesses who'd lied at the first hearing and gotten one of them to admit, on recording, that Victoria's brother had paid him $2,000 to testify. We walked into that courtroom locked and loaded. Patricia Hartfield opened with more of the same. Marcus was unstable, the children were at risk, Victoria was the responsible parent. She was confident, professional, dismissive of Marcus. Then it was our turn, and I'd hired a real attorney. Richard Monroe was an old colleague of mine, semi-retired, but still sharp as a razor. He'd agreed to take the case as a favor. "Your Honor," Richard began, "what we have here isn't a custody dispute. It's organized fraud. My client, Mr. Sullivan, has been the victim of a calculated scheme involving multiple members of the Hartfield family to unlawfully deprive him of his parental rights and his property for financial gain." Patricia started to object, but Judge Henderson raised her hand. "I'll hear him out." "Continue, Mr. Monroe." Richard presented everything. Sarah testified as an expert witness, walking through the financial trail. The $85,000 moving from Marcus's account to Hartfield Ventures to Daniel's personal account. The hotel records, the text messages, the paid witnesses. When Richard read the text messages aloud, Victoria and Daniel discussing Marcus like he was a problem to be eliminated, joking about using child support to fund a business. Judge Henderson's expression went from neutral to thunderous. "Ms. Hartfield," she said, turning to Patricia, "do you have any response to these allegations?" Patricia did her best. She claimed the texts were taken out of context, that the hotel visits were business-related, that the money transfer was a legitimate investment, but her voice lacked conviction. She knew she'd been caught. Then Richard called Emma's independent counselor to testify. The counselor, Dr. Martinez, had been seeing Emma for 2 weeks as part of the custody evaluation. She'd noticed signs that concerned her. Emma exhibits classic signs of coaching, Dr. Martinez testified. She uses adult phrases when discussing her father, words like unstable and needs help that aren't typical for a 7-year-old. When I asked her specific questions about her father's behavior, she couldn't provide concrete examples. She'd say things like, "Mommy says he's dangerous," but couldn't tell me anything dangerous he'd actually done. In contrast, when discussing positive memories with her father, she became animated and detailed. "And what's your professional opinion, Dr. Martinez?" Richard asked. "In my professional opinion, Emma and her brother are being subjected to parental alienation. Their mother is systematically undermining their relationship with their father through repeated negative messaging and coaching. This is a form of emotional abuse." Victoria's mask finally cracked. She stood up, her face red.
"That's not true. I'm protecting my children."
"Ms. Sullivan, sit down," Judge Henderson commanded. She looked at the documents in front of her for a long moment. Then she looked at Victoria, and her voice was cold. "In 30 years on the bench, I've seen a lot of ugly custody cases. But this is one of the most calculated, malicious schemes I've encountered. You didn't just lie to this court. You manufactured evidence, paid witnesses, and used your children as pawns in a financial scam." She turned to Marcus. "Mr. Sullivan, I owe you an apology. This court failed you at the preliminary hearing. I should have looked deeper. I'm rectifying that now." Judge Henderson's ruling was comprehensive. Marcus received full custody, effective immediately. Victoria was granted supervised visitation only, and the supervisor couldn't be a family member. A restraining order was issued against Victoria and all members of the Hartfield family except during court-supervised visitation. Victoria was ordered to repay the $85,000 plus $20,000 in damages within 90 days. But Judge Henderson wasn't done. "I'm also referring this case to the district attorney for possible fraud charges. And Ms. Hartfield," she looked at Patricia, "I'm submitting a formal complaint to the state bar. You knowingly presented false evidence to this court. That's grounds for disbarment." Victoria left the courthouse in tears, her family surrounding her. Daniel wasn't there. Sarah had informed me he'd already closed Hartfield Ventures and was trying to flee to California. The FBI was now involved in investigating the financial fraud. Marcus walked out with Emma holding his right hand and Noah holding his left. Both kids were crying, but these were different tears. Relief. Joy. Emma kept saying, "We can go home with Daddy? Really?" "Really, sweetheart," Marcus told her. "Really." That was 3 weeks ago. It's December 23rd now, 2 days before Christmas. Marcus and the kids moved into a rental house near me, not back to the old house he'd shared with Victoria. Too many bad memories there. This new place is smaller, but it's warm and safe, and it's theirs. Tonight, we're all at my house for dinner. Emma is helping me make cookies, getting flour everywhere and not caring. Noah is building a Lego tower in the living room, talking again, his voice getting louder and more confident every day. Marcus is in the kitchen cooking spaghetti, his late mother's recipe, and I can hear him humming along to the Christmas music on the radio. Emma looks up at me, chocolate chips smudged on her cheek. "Grandpa?" "Yes, sweetheart." "Is Daddy going to be okay?" I kneel down so I'm at her eye level. I look past her to where Marcus is stirring sauce, where Noah is carefully placing one Lego on top of another, building something new from broken pieces. "He already is, sweetheart," I tell her. "We all are." Later that night, after the kids are in bed, Marcus and I sit on my back porch with coffee. It's cold, but we don't mind. The stars are out, bright and clear. "Thank you, Dad," Marcus says quietly, "for believing me, for fighting for us. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't found us that night." I think about that moment in the grocery store parking lot, seeing that familiar Camry with my son and grandchildren inside, running from a predator who was supposed to love them. I think about how close we came to losing everything. "You're my son," I tell him. There was never a question of whether I'd fight. The only question was how hard. Marcus nods. He's quiet for a moment, then asks, "Do you think Emma and Noah will remember all this? The bad parts?" "Maybe," I say honestly. "But they'll also remember that when things got dark, family showed up. They'll remember their dad never stopped fighting for them. They'll remember that truth wins out eventually, even when it takes time." I put my hand on his shoulder. "And they'll grow up knowing that love doesn't manipulate, doesn't scheme, doesn't use people as tools. That's the most important lesson they'll learn from all this." The coffee's warm in my hands. My son is beside me. Inside my house, my grandchildren sleep safely in beds that won't move, in a home that won't disappear. It's not the Christmas any of us imagined, but it's real. It's honest. And after months of lies and manipulation, that's worth more than anything money could buy. Tomorrow, we'll wake up and keep rebuilding. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, we can all sleep soundly. The nightmare is over, and we survived it together.